My name is Jerry Blumenfeld. I'm the Secretary of the California Environmental Protection Agency. We're here not for great news, but for news that you're going to hear California, again, is having to fight back. So to start up, we have the Attorney General from the great state of California, Javier Becerra.
Secretary, thank you very much. Thank you all for being with us. I wish I could tell you this is new news, but it's a regurgitation in many ways of something we've been hearing for over a year. I'm pleased to be joined, obviously, by Governor Newsom. We have our CARB chair, Mary Nichols, who has been a champion on these issues for a long time, and we're thrilled that she's here. And Mr. Secretary, thank you for also being part of this announcement. California has always been a state that leans forward. We've been setting the pace in so many ways for so many years here in America. When it comes to auto emissions, we know we have to get moving to address the dire air pollution issues in our state. It's not a choice for us. There are more than 35 million cars, trucks, and other vehicles that are registered here in our state of California. That's more than any other state. And those cars and trucks here in our state and across the country are the nation's largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. Transportation alone in our state is responsible for 29% of all greenhouse gases. We're already seeing the way greenhouse gases and climate change are affecting our state, from wildfires and droughts to superstorms, floods, and mudslides. These changes affect not just our environment, but our economy and our health. California's leadership and expertise and the presence of serious air pollution concerns in our state are among the reasons why Congress granted our state the authority to combat our air pollution by setting our own standards for vehicle emissions way back. I want to be clear. Every time California sets a new air pollution rule for new motor vehicles, we have to get a waiver from the EPA every time. Since Governor, not Newsom, Governor Ronald Reagan was in office, we've had approvals. And since the creation of the Air Resources Board itself, California has been seeking waivers. We've been granted 100 waivers. Never has one been rejected. That's 50 years of receiving waivers. Thanks to the state's regulations written under these federal waivers, California has seen reductions of some 400,000 tons of emissions per year between 1970 and 2010. California standards have encouraged the development of critical emissions control technologies, many of which have been deployed nationally, not just in our state. Some of California's standards alone led to stronger standards from the EPA itself. All of this ultimately leading to cleaner cars and cleaner air for all Americans. It's clear that this is the direction we need to move in. It's clear that the stakes are high for California. It's clear to consumers across the country, and it's clear even to automakers who are embracing cleaner cars. As President Trump arrives in California to rake in campaign cash, his administration is preparing to announce his desperate plan to rob our state of its long-standing authority to set vehicle emissions standards. The president just tweeted about it a few minutes ago. Our message to those who claim to support states' rights: don't trample on ours. Doing so would be an attempt to undo the progress we've made over the past decades. We can't afford that here in California. We cannot afford to backslide in our battle against climate change. For us, this is about survival. Our communities are screaming for help to address the climate crisis. Unlike the Trump administration, we don't run scared. And so whether it is climate change or an administration recalcitrant in taking on its responsibilities, we're prepared to lead, we'll prepare to fight, we'll do what we must. With that, let me now turn it over to the CARB Board of Directors Chair, Mary Nichols.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. I have a very heavy heart this morning. You mentioned that I've been working in this topic for a long time now. I had the privilege of serving at the Environmental Protection Agency under President Clinton at the time when California first adopted the Zero Emission Vehicle Program, and EPA found a way eventually to approve that over the objections of the auto industry, I might add. Some things have changed since then, even though every governor of California has had to go back and to confront EPA, sometimes more or less success, to push them to allow California to move ahead. It hasn't been always an easy, unbroken path, but the fact is that we are now in a situation where we are attempting to enforce standards that were developed in collaboration with not only the last administration, the Obama administration, but with the auto industry. And the jobs that the president is tweeting about this morning are all now moving in the direction of electric vehicles. The people at General Motors who he claims to care about, who are moving on into new careers, they are moving into electric vehicles because that company is now shifting all of their production into electric vehicles. So to be faced with a situation where the EPA is claiming that they now no longer can allow us to have a waiver, which is already in existence, is a particularly ironic situation. This has never happened before. EPA has sometimes stalled. We've sometimes had to push. We once went to court, but we have never had a situation where there was suddenly a change of mind about what to do. So I think there's no question, of course, that we will be in court as soon as we have a document actually out there, maybe even ahead of that. And I asked the Attorney General on the way in if, since I, in fact, have been paying my bar dues all these years just in readiness for this moment, he would allow me to sign on to the litigation. And he said he would find a way to do that. This is the fight of a lifetime for us. We have to win this, and I believe we will. In this battle, of course, we are led by our governor, who has shown himself to be a worthy champion for the cause of clean air and climate change, and who has not only backed us, but has pushed us every step of the way to do more. So, Governor Newsom, it's yours.
Thank you, Mary. And yeah, I want to pick up on the note of optimism. We will prevail. This was a move, demonstrable move to assert power and dominance, aggressive move against the state. A few days before UN Climate Week, to punctuate a point, and it's a point that's been advanced by previous administrations. Let's not forget, we were here just a few years back. George W. Bush asserted the same kind of authority, at least tried to assert that they had the ability to eliminate our waiver, a waiver that goes back to my birth year, 1967, when we had major smog in Southern California, and you had a leader, an environmental leader by modern terms, in the name of Ronald Reagan, who pushed the federal government, eventually leading to the Clean Air Act, signed by, again, a Republican environmental leader by modern Republican standards, by the name of Richard Nixon. This was bipartisan. You had a senator, Senator Murphy, a Republican at the time in California, was also advocating for the same. I don't know what the hell has happened to the Republican Party. And by the way, where is the Republican Party right now? Where are they pushing back? Why aren't they pushing back? They believe in federalism. They believe in state rights. At least they assert that. And they're nowhere to be found on this. 100 waivers have been approved over and over and over again. Courts have upheld our rights of these waivers. So I'm confident we'll prevail eventually. It will take years and years and years, more uncertainty, more anxiety, but California will prevail because we're leaders in this space. And in the spirit of Jerry Brown, who I can't imagine wants to be in Calusa, he'd rather be standing here at this podium at this moment, let me quote Pericles, who said, "We do not imitate, for we are a model to others." Former mayor Pericles told that to the Athenians. We are the pace car as it relates to environmental stewardship, clean air, clean water, and reducing tailpipe emissions. And so we're proud of that. It's part of who we are. It's in our DNA. And it's part of our economic story. And I want to just close on this. We are also dealing with an administration that lays claim, and a Republican Party that lays claim to supporting free enterprise. The irony of that shouldn't be lost on anyone when they called in these same companies and threatened their business models and have now asserted under antitrust provisions they have set the DOJ as a political arm of the administration to further threaten and chill our negotiations with additional companies that were very soon about to join voluntarily California's higher vehicle emissions standards. That's not free enterprise. That's not about states' rights. That's about bullying and intimidation. That's unethical. I would argue on the margin illegal, but that's for folks that went to law school. I did not. And so California will assert itself. I'll just close on this. This is not surprising, as Mary said. I think we've been thinking about this. I think the day he got into office, we anticipated this move. But I find it so fascinating that we didn't think it would be his first move on the issue of tailpipe emissions. We thought he would go after our fuel standards that had now been adopted by the Obama administration and the law of the land. And it's interesting. They can't even fake the science. They're so desperately flailing, they seemingly can't even figure out the data and the science. And the irony of ironies, and I think one of you picked this up, if they possibly were successful with the waiver, but not with the vehicle mile standards, the irony is the default would be back to the Obama standards, not to the new negotiated standards with the automobile companies that they claim to be protecting that were agreed to in our pact. That's the perversion of this moment. Pure politics, and politics that could have profound consequences, not just in terms of the air we breathe in the state of California and addressing the fact we still lead the nation in air pollution. 7 of the top 10 cities, most polluted cities in America, are in our state. That's why this is so important. But will impact the rest of the country and in closing the rest of the world. The innovation genie is out of the bottle. Every single one of these companies know where the consumer's going, know where the world is going. They know where China has committed to going by 2040. They know where India and Japan are going, and that's the elimination of the internal combustion engine. Every one of these automobile manufacturers has to compete, not just domestically, but globally. They cannot compete unless they meet and anticipate the needs and meet the direction the rest of the world is going. California gets that because we're in the future business, and that's why they voluntarily agreed to our standards, because they know that's where the consumers are going and the market's going and the rest of the world's going. So it begs the question, Mr. Trump, what and who is this for? The companies, the automobile manufacturers, don't want it. So is it about Marathon Petroleum? Look them up, because it is. It's about Charles Koch's efforts to manipulate and to market efforts to advance this announcement. It's about the oil industry, period, full stop. It's not about the car manufacturers, not about consumers. It's not about the health. It's not about our economy. It's about oil companies. And the irony of that final words is here we are, the precipice of more unrest in the Middle East, a time when we've yet again been exposed for our deep dependence on foreign oil that now has a trajectory to get us back into conflict in the Middle East. Our foreign policy, our treasury, our moral authority around the world, all dependent upon fossil fuel industry whose time is limited and is coming to an end. And California wants to make sure that we're on the right side of this hinge moment in world history, not just California and American history. So I applaud the Attorney General and just cannot say enough about the one and only Mary Nichols for her extraordinary talent and tenacity to do the right thing. We will prevail.